السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. لعل التواصل العلمي يلعب دورا مهما في رفع مستوى المعرفة العلمية والوعي، فالعلم والتكنولوجيا باتا محورا في التنمية البشرية والنمو الصناعي والقضاء على الفقر في مناطق معينة من العالم. ولكن دون هذا الأمر عقبات وتحديات وثمة هوة عميقة. مع البروفيسور منزور سومرو من باكستان والأستاذ ويليام أودينغا من أوغندا نتحدث من الداخل والعقول الجميلة. معكم زينب صفار، تابعونا. Professor Manzoor Hussain Sumru, eminent scientist from Pakistan and president of Eco Science Foundation. Welcome to Min al-Dakhil from the Inside, sir.
Thank you very much.
Always,
it's a pleasure.
And also from Uganda, William Odinga, president of the Uganda Science Journalists Association. Also, it's a great pleasure to have you, William.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Distinguished guests, again, I reiterate, it's a pure pleasure to have you on Min al-Dakhil, Special Beautiful Minds today. Dr. Sumru, allow me to start with you, sir. The 10th of November marked the World Science Day for Peace and Development. Excuse me. It was an initiative earmarked by a Muslim scientist from Pakistan. What can you tell us about the highlight of such an initiative?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Having me on this, your show about beautiful minds, as it says. It's a real an honor for me that I come from Pakistan and a Pakistani scientist called Dr. Ishfaq Ahmad, who was, now he's no more in this world, he died a couple of years ago. He was the chairman of Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. So you know Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission has done quite a lot. So he was in one of the UNESCO general conferences leading the delegation of Pakistan, and on certain occasion he thought of, you have different days, Environment Day, Earth Day, and Biodiversity Day, and Women's Day, and so on. So he was kind of surprised when he asked, do you celebrate science? Because UNESCO, science is one of the bigger components. And the answer was no. So he said, oh, then I would like to write to the Secretary General. So he actually then wrote to the Secretary General, and then this started within the UN. They were also surprised, how come we talk about science and technology and yet
there's no Science Day.
World Science Day.
Yes.
And he was one of the promoters of Atom for Peace, that atomic energy should be used for peace. Therefore, he proposed this, that this day, whichever is decided, should be declared as a World Science Day for Peace and Development. So it was then it went through all the processes. I believe it was 2001, not very long ago, when this was all processed. And in 2002, it was already declared. I happened to be working at that time as Chief Scientific Officer in Pakistan Science Foundation, which subsequently I also became the president of Pakistan Science Foundation. But at that time I was Chief Scientific Officer, and this was assigned to me that Pakistan Science Foundation would always, every year, celebrate this. Therefore, in Pakistan, any government agency which is actually has a mandate to ensure that this day is celebrated, that is Pakistan Science Foundation.
Right.
And then it, of course, is all around.
I will come back, Dr. Sumro, to talk about the importance of having, the advice of science in various aspects of life, particularly in the political life. Right. But allow me to move on to William and talk about your association. You're the president of the Uganda Science Journalists Association. When we say science journalists, science communication, the term, we talked further about that during the speeches that we have given, that what does it actually mean, the science communication?
Okay. I think there are two terms that you want to get clear here. Science journalism and then science communication. Science communication tends to be general. So you're communicating the science, making the public understand the science in whatever angle. Then the journalism bit, journalism is part of communication.
Right.
But it also brings in the accountability bit of it. The probing, you understand? So that even when you're doing science, you should be checked so that, you're doing the science for the good of us.
The benefit of everyone.
Sure,
exactly. Sure.
What we do actually is to try and make sure that science does not remain in the shelves as it has always been for many years. It's a new thing, science journalism and science communication. The way we understand it, it's probably about 3 decades. But we are trying to engage with scientists. Previously, these two worlds seemed to be apart.
Right.
But over the last few years, we've come closer, getting to an understanding that, yes, scientists do a big job, and that's what the world needs.
Right.
Get the science out to the people
so
that it helps humanity.
You believe also, William, that networking is something very vital for this science also, through the journalism, through the communication, to get more to the people and to benefit more for the betterment of our life and societies worldwide. How can we expand the capacities and networks of professionals working in the field of science communication in the Islamic countries? Let's start with the Islamic countries, so to say, to make a sustainable platform to overcome challenges in science communication.
Good enough, the platform is already there. You've talked about Islamic countries. That already brings some identity. It brings us to the table. We know where the Islamic countries are. So we can start with that. And we say, this is where we are. We are all people of Allah. Wherever you are in Africa, Europe, Asia, can we get at the table and start to discuss who has which strength? Who has which weakness? Then in that networking, we'll find that we can be able to support each other. Yeah, I think the platform is already there.
The platform is already there. Dr. Sumro, we talked about the importance of having scientists like yourself and like the other scientists that we met on the course of these last 2 days, that they should be close to every person who is there to decide on matters related to science, to environment, to technology, and things that are relevant. What do you say about this matter? Does the scientist have to approach the politician, or the politician has to chase the scientist for his help?
Thank you. I think science is something that happens in nature. The processes are all around us. We all benefit from them, but we may also get adversely affected by them. And therefore, this is like a human right, that you need to know, everybody needs to know how things are happening. Of course, not in a very scientific explanation way like the scientists do, but in an ordinary language. Now, how can we do that? Who should do it? I personally think that the greater responsibility comes on the scientific community, who are the experts of that area, and the governments, the leadership also. This should be part of general public education. And you talk about greater scholars and education, but always there is community behind that. Every great scientist is initially a young child.
Sure.
And his or her parents have to groom that child,
The
few
different
years
stages.
before getting into the school system.
Sure.
So if that understanding is good enough, then you can actually have better people. And scientific understanding not only to learn science, but really the everyday life, because there are certain mechanisms which are in nature, and everybody does get. And particularly with the technological developments, it becomes even more important, because otherwise some people who do not understand the technology, they are not well versed with it, they get left behind. And instead of promoting science literacy, you begin to see the divide between those who know and those who don't understand. But to make sure that the science base is good enough, we have launched a program for the last few years. We are running a program called Inquiry-Based Science Education, and this is at the primary school level. However, we directly do not go to children, but we build the capacity of their teachers.
Of which you are a proponent, actually,
Yes,
this kind
yeah.
of program.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm personally passionate about this program.
You're really passionate about it.
And I have done this not only with the teachers and the children, but also farming communities, illiterate farmers who could not read and write. Yet, when you come up with learning by doing sort of methodology, whereby you engage everybody, and also everyday life decisions you take on the basis of certain observations.
So it's interactive
Absolutely
science.
interactive, and also not only between teacher and students, but among the
community.
Learners, among the community.
Right.
So students as a learners.
Right. Dr. Manzoor, Sumro, and Mr. William Oudinga, allow us to stop now for a short break, and then afterwards we will continue to talk further about science communication. إذا فاصل قصير ونعود، لا تذهبوا بعيدا. لعل وسائل الإعلام تؤدي دورا مهما في إحاطة الجمهور بالتطورات العلمية والتكنولوجية، على الرغم من أن الدراسات المختلفة تفيد بأن مستشاري الإعلام والعلماء يعتقدون بأن معظم وسائل الإعلام تورد تقاريرها العلمية على نحو سيء. الكاتب الصحفي ويليام أودينغا رئيس جمعية صحفيي العلوم في أوغندا يشرح لماذا.
Let me say that we are coming from a long way. First of all, you had media, which was looking at politics, was looking at sports, and not many people paid attention to so much areas of science, unless it was something going wrong, a disaster or something like that. But over the years, you're seeing now in the media, at least in many countries,
even the disaster, they approach it not in terms of science, they approach it as news.
Exactly.
Yes. As news, or managing the crisis, and then,
a current incident, and then it will go away.
Not the science of disaster.
Sure, yes.
Yeah. So you find that, okay, I'll talk for the science, journalism and science media. You find that we are not very old. We are young. I'll tell you that our association, for example, started in 2005. That's just 14 years ago.
Sure.
But the work we've done over the 14 years, I think, is a lot more than what was done 50 years before we were there. And then you're seeing now that we have a global community under the World Federation of Science Journalists. So you have several countries in there. We are appreciating that there has been a challenge. Probably we are not understanding science. That's why we're reporting it poorly. But today, if you deal with journalists who have gone through some basic training about science reporting, they do a fantastic job, and we are very proud of them.
Right. Bless your heart.
But if you allow, the perception that the journalists are not reporting correctly, to a greater extent is also true, in my opinion, because in many countries, and being intergovernmental organization president of science and technology, I can tell you that the reporting is changed over a period of time, because when it changes, how to say, from person to person, like a Chinese whisper, at the end, the news is totally changed. And I showed that in my
in the
talk yesterday
presentation.
also.
We have also a very famous artist in Lebanon. He's an Arab artist, so to say, Ziad al-Rahbani. He says that in one of his plays, like one at the beginning of the neighborhood sneezes, then it gets to the last one in the neighborhood that he has cancer. You know how things move from...
So, which means understanding of public, but interaction of scientists and journalists is very, very important. And now this is a little bit of a responsibility of journalists also to ensure the facts and also the way they are communicated.
In this sense, sir, please, William.
Actually, that's why we really campaign for that closer relationship.
Right.
Throughout the countries where we don't have even the associations, we are trying to encourage them to found those associations so that they have a platform. So if you are journalists and you are together, it's easy to approach a scientific organization, research organization, and say, we want you to talk to us about your work.
Right.
That interaction there helps you to learn about each other.
Right.
Understand each other.
That's what I'm doing today.
Exactly.
Yes.
The language used. And I think if we go forward by that, building the networks,
networks,
we will get communication getting better and better.
We have to thank Mustafa Science and Technology Foundation for bringing us together and letting us communicate and network with people, distinguished people like yourselves. I would like to ask you here, Dr. Sumro, what is the way forward and the recommendations to establish strong linkages and to build synergy among scientists, engineers, technologists, communities, and individuals in the Islamic world to build this effective network that you talked about?
Right. Well, to start with, really, we need to have a truly political will in our countries.
Sure.
Whereby at the top, the leadership is serious about educating their people, particularly about science and technology. I personally very strongly feel that if the top leadership, the government, the chief executive of a country, if has an advisor science, I think that provides the immediate and quick understanding by the top level. You need to educate it, at every level, and education not just a degree, but understanding of a mechanism, understanding of a process as to how do we go about it.
Management of the process, sure.
So at that, and we have seen those examples in Pakistan when Professor Ataur Rahman, a very well-known scientist, chemist, was advisor to the government. Good things happened. Well before that, in late 70s, Dr. Amir Muhammad was advisor to the president and the prime minister on agriculture, and we had Pakistan Agriculture Research Council. There were epidemics of crop diseases. They were really controlled mainly because there was a direct link with the top.
Right.
But then the scientific community, the research institutions, I think all of them need to have a kind of communication office or communication
funding to drive funding. Yes, this is very important.
Investment is a must.
Investment is a must, sure. Allow me to ask William, in Uganda, how many, or I don't want percentage, I don't want numbers, but I need to know how much are the women inclined to work in science communication, in science journalism?
I think journalism
as your association might tell you.
Yeah, journalism as a field. This is, I'm not being, I'm saying what is reality. Journalism as a field tends to require that extra
effort,
running, you know?
Yes.
And I'm not saying women can't run, we have so many of them. But there are also a number of them who would rather opt for something simpler than running about a story which you can't complete. Go and talk to so-and-so, run there and there, go and jump over that, that trench and so on. We have a number, very interesting, and they're doing very well, even winning awards. Nice girls winning awards in journalism. But compared to the men are much more.
They are much more than the women in science journalism. Yeah. What about women scientists, sir?
Well, as compared to women journalists, women in science is a little bit better picture. However, considering the proportion of population worldwide, around 50% is really the female population. But you don't see scientists maybe around 20% or 25%. I think.
What should be done to increase the number of women scientists and female professors in this sense?
Well, see, this is something that I would take it to homes. It is the family, it is the parents, and
the mindset. The mindset.
The mindset is the most important thing, and we have seen problems also with the women scientists when they are at the workplace. The men are sometimes, they assume that they are superior, they are better, they are in control. I mean, I'm a man, but I have experience. I have 2 daughters, and both of them work. They studied and they are working. I face a lot of difficulties and criticism from within the family, from outside, and truly in the society. It's not only in our developing world, but across the world,
everywhere
there's a difficulty. So I think its mindset needs to be changed, but determination by the parents. And I see that for girls, fathers have always played a major role. Mothers are always protective and supportive, but fathers have access to watch as they move, as they grow outside the home. And I think fathers have, in my opinion, far greater role to ensure that their children, girl children, go to school, they study, they have a profession and continue.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Professor Manzoor Hussein Sumro, for putting this fantastic closing about women and fathers and family. And family is the essence or the launch pad for everything that we get in our society. Eminent scientist from Pakistan and president of Eco Science Foundation, and also Mr. William Odinga, president of the Uganda Science Journalists Association. Distinguished guests, beautiful minds. Again, many thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome. إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. المزيد من التواصل تابعونا على صفحات السوشيال ميديا من كل فريق عمل البرنامج من كل الميادين من طهران. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.